Welcome back. If you watch part one, you already know the basics. The zero income tax, the off-market real estate, the yachts as primary residences, the invisible social hierarchy, the private dinner clubs where billion-dollar decisions happen with no phones allowed. But here's what we save for part two, the part that reframes everything. Because Monaco isn't just a place where billionaires choose to live. Monaco is a product, a deliberately designed, carefully maintained system, built by one of Europe's most sophisticated small states to attract and keep the wealthiest people on the planet. And once you see it that way, you can never unsee it. Let's get into it. Here's the thing that reframes everything we've discussed. A lot of Monaco's wealth is not Monaco's wealth at all. Let's explain. Billionaires from across the globe, Russia, Saudi Arabia, India, China, the United States, and beyond, use Monaco not just as a place to live. They use it as a hub, a central point in a global architecture of assets. Their money doesn't live in Monaco. Their money lives everywhere. Monaco is where they live, or at least where they're officially registered. Think of Monaco as the flag. The assets are the ship. The ship sails all over the world, but flies Monaco's flag. Why does this matter? Because Monaco's legal and tax framework gives them the platform to hold and move global assets in a way that minimizes friction, maximizes privacy, and protects against political risk. Consider a billionaire from an emerging market. Their home country has political instability, corruption risk, sudden changes in tax law, currency volatility. By establishing legal residency in Monaco, they create a firewall. Their wealth moves through structures connected to Monaco's stable, private, and respected legal system. If something goes wrong at home, their core assets are insulated. This is not illegal. In most cases, it's entirely within the law. But it's deeply strategic. And it's a strategy that only those at a certain level even know exists. Now here's where the dots connect to form a picture most people have never seen. Monaco isn't just attracting billionaires. It's attracting a specific type of billionaire, one who thinks globally, plays the long game, and sees wealth not as a number, but as a system. These are people who have family offices, private financial teams, sometimes with 30 or 40 staff members, managing investments, philanthropic foundations, legal entities, and day-to-day logistics for ultra-high net worth individuals. The family office for a Monaco-based billionaire might have offices in Zurich, Singapore, Dubai, New York, and London, all coordinated from Monaco. The billionaire wakes up in Monaco, reviews global reports, makes a call to their team in Singapore, and by evening they're on a private jet to New York for a board meeting. Monaco is the command center. The rest of the world is the empire. And here's what makes this even more extraordinary. The Principality of Monaco actively supports this model. The government, led by the Grimaldi family, has a deep, structured relationship with the private sector. They don't just tolerate wealth. They serve it. They legislate to protect it. They create frameworks that make Monaco the most functional possible hub for global capital. In return, the billionaires who live here contribute through real estate purchases, luxury consumption, business activity, and direct relationships with the state. Some reportedly have direct lines of communication to the royal family. Not formal relationships, informal ones, built on mutual interest and years of trust. This is the system-level truth of Monaco. It isn't just a place. It's a product, designed and maintained by one of Europe's most sophisticated small states to attract and retain the wealthiest people on the planet. And it's working better than ever. Over the last decade, despite global financial turmoil, political upheaval, and a global pandemic, Monaco's real estate prices have risen. Its population of ultra-high net worth individuals has grown. Its infrastructure has expanded, with new land literally reclaimed from the sea to build new developments. The world gets more chaotic, Monaco gets more valuable. Because when the world gets chaotic, people who can afford to flee to stability. And Monaco, with its ancient ruling family, its protected legal status, its zero income tax, and its Mediterranean beauty, remains one of the most stable addresses on the planet. So what does all this mean for us today? Let's step back and think about why any of this matters to you. You might not be a billionaire. You might be watching this from a small apartment, a shared house, or an office cubicle. That's fine. Most of us are. But here's what Monaco teaches us, even if we never set foot there. First lesson, geography is a financial decision. We don't often think of where we live as a financial strategy, but it is. The ultra-wealthy treat location as one of their most important assets. They don't just live somewhere because they grew up there. They choose their location the way they choose investments. What does this place offer? What does it cost? What does it protect? You don't need to move to Monaco, but you should be asking yourself, is where I live working for me? Or is it costing me in ways I've never examined? Second lesson, privacy compounds. Monaco's billionaires don't just protect their money. They protect their information, their movements, their relationships, their transactions. They understand that in a world of constant surveillance and data harvesting, privacy is a form of power. In your own life, how much of your financial behavior is visible? Who has access to your data? These aren't paranoid questions. They're strategic ones. Third lesson, networks beat net worth. The most important resource in Monaco isn't money. It's access. And access comes from relationships built over years. The billionaires who get invited to the private dinners aren't just rich. They've been showing up, contributing, and building credibility in the community for years. In your own world, are you investing in your network? Are you in rooms where the right conversations are happening? If not, what would it take to get there? Now, let's zoom out to the bigger picture. The existence of places like Monaco tells us something important about the current state of global wealth. The wealthiest individuals in the world are becoming, in a sense, stateless. They're not tied to any one country. They hold passports from multiple nations. Their assets are distributed globally. They choose their tax residency strategically. They move freely across borders that, for most people, represent significant barriers. This is not a critique. It's an observation. The world is structured in a way that rewards mobility and penalizes rootedness. The more flexible you are geographically, financially, professionally, the more options you have. Monaco is an extreme expression of this principle. But the principle exists at every level of wealth. In the short term, this means Monaco will continue to attract the global ultra-wealthy. Demand will continue to outpace supply. Property prices will continue rising. The principality will continue expanding, literally, into the sea. In the long term, the bigger question is whether the global tax and regulatory environment will shift enough to close some of the gaps that make Monaco so attractive. Several international organizations have pushed for global minimum tax frameworks. Some progress has been made. But the people who benefit from the current system are also the people with the most resources to resist change. For now, Monaco's model is not just surviving, it's thriving. And for anyone who studies wealth, not just earns it, understanding Monaco is like reading the blueprint. Before we wrap up, there's one final thing you need to know. Here's the part of the Monaco story that almost nobody talks about. Behind all the glamour, the yachts, the penthouses, the private dinners, the racing cars, there's a quieter reality. A lot of Monaco's billionaires are lonely. That might sound absurd. How can someone with unlimited resources, surrounded by beauty, connected to powerful people, be lonely? But think about it. When everyone around you has something to gain from your wealth, your time, your access, your capital, you can never fully trust a relationship. Every new person you meet, you have to wonder, are they here for me or for what I have? The inner circle of Monaco's ultra-wealthy is small on purpose, not just for privacy or exclusivity, but because trust is extraordinarily rare at that level. Sources who've spent time in Monaco's elite circle suggest that the emotional landscape inside that world is more complicated than the exterior suggests. Extraordinary wealth solves material problems. It doesn't solve human wants. In some ways, it intensifies them. This reframes our opening hook in an unexpected way. We started by saying Monaco's billionaires live in a world most people don't know exists. And that's true in terms of material reality. But in terms of human experience, the hunger for connection, meaning, and trust, they're navigating the same fundamental terrain as everyone else, just with much more expensive furniture. And that's worth holding on to. Because in a world obsessed with wealth as the ultimate goal, Monaco is a living case study in what maximum wealth actually produces. It produces security, yes, freedom of movement, extraordinary beauty, access, power, but also produces complexity, isolation, the need for constant vigilance, and a very small, very guarded circle of people you can genuinely trust. The billionaires of Monaco built a remarkable life, but they built it inside a fortress. And the higher the fortress walls, the more selective the view. There's one more layer to this. Monaco's existence depends on a kind of collective agreement. The ultra-wealthy agree to maintain their residency. The Grimaldi family agrees to maintain the legal framework that makes residency valuable. The French government, Monaco's much larger neighbor, agrees to respect Monégasque sovereignty under a 1918 treaty in exchange for Monaco maintaining French-friendly policies. It's a three-way balancing act, and it's worked for over a century. But it's not invulnerable. If any leg of that triangle weakens, if international tax law shifts dramatically, if the Grimaldi succession faces instability, if France's relationship with the principality changes, the entire model could shift. Monaco's billionaires know this. Quietly, many hedge against it. They don't put all their eggs in one basket, even a golden one. That's not pessimism. It's the same thinking that got them to Monaco in the first place. Always looking forward, always planning for what comes next. If this opened your eyes, let's bring it all together. Here's what we covered today. Monaco isn't just a playground for the rich. It's a carefully constructed system, built over centuries, that attracts, protects, and serves the wealthiest people on Earth. The zero-income tax isn't an accident. The private real estate market isn't an accident. The discretion, the banking infrastructure, the royal stability, none of it is an accident. The billionaires who live here didn't just win a lottery. They made deliberate, strategic decisions over years or decades to place themselves at the center of the world's most effective wealth hub. The yachts, the penthouses, the private clubs, the invisible social hierarchy. These are the visible surface of a much deeper architecture. An architecture built on legal structures, generational relationships, geographic strategy, and an almost obsessive commitment to privacy. And underneath it all, underneath the glamour, are human beings navigating the same fundamental questions about trust, meaning, and connection that all of us face. Just in a more extreme context. That's the real story of Monaco. Not the postcards, not the race cars, not the casino. The real story is a masterclass in how the world's wealthiest people think, plan, and protect. And now you've seen it. If you found this video valuable, hit subscribe. We go deep on wealth, power, and the systems that shape the world. Not surface level, not clickbait. Real information, researched and presented clearly. And if you're serious about understanding how wealth actually works, not just how it looks from the outside, watch our next video. We go inside the private family offices that manage billionaire fortunes and break down exactly how generational wealth gets built, protected, and passed on. You'll see the structures Monaco's billionaires use, the strategies their advisors deploy, and the principles that separate people who build lasting wealth from those who earn a lot and still end up with nothing. That video is linked right here. One last thing before you go. We want to hear from you. If you could live anywhere in the world with no restrictions on money, passport, or language, where would you choose? And why? Drop it in the comments below. We read every one, and the most interesting answers might just inspire our next deep dive. Until next time, stay curious, stay strategic, and keep asking questions that most people never think to ask.